This video is a 20-minute video with Alex Hughes from Kyocera Irvine doing a quick overview of Kyocera Fleet Services.
So today we're going to be talking about Kyocera's Fleet Services. This is our monitoring and management system that is based in the cloud. The great benefit to that is that anywhere in the world, as long as you have internet access, you'll be able to come into this system to manage and monitor your devices. On the home page here, you can see I've got all of my devices listed, and I'm currently using the general default view, which shows me the serial number, the model name, the host name, a quick status of the device, whether it's in a warning state, ready, offline, or an error state. I also quickly can see the firmware version and my toner information. This is very helpful for an IT team to be able to monitor all their devices from a central dashboard. And additionally, for our service team to be able to quickly check on the status of customers' devices and even proactively service them. With the proactive service, our team is able to actually perform tasks on these devices whenever we see an issue pop up. So for example, if we see an error or we need to make device setting changes, we can do that through the tasks menu here. You'll notice that we have a firmware upgrade option available. This is extremely helpful because for competitors, they would have to send out a technician to update the firmware on the devices, and it becomes a very tedious task of having the technician go to each machine, update the device, and have that downtime scheduled where the customer is not going to be affected by it. For Kyocera, we're actually able to schedule these firmware updates to be done overnight. The idea being that when the customer comes in the morning, the firmware update's already been completed, the machine is up and running, and there's no downtime for the end users. Additionally, if the customer is a high volume or 24/7 customer, we can work with them to schedule times that are best for them for those machines to be updated. And again, it's very proactive and easy from our end. We do not have someone manually standing at the device and doing that update. We can schedule it and know that in the background, that update's going to run. Additionally, this view can actually be customized to see the particular information that you're looking for. By default, we see this information, but we can actually create different views and add any sort of columns that we'd like to that. By going over to the display settings on the right, you'll see that I have a few different views created, but I can also add to this list. If I hit the add button here, you'll see that I can create a view name and then move any columns that I'd like to the right side here to be displayed for me. For example, I can add my asset number. Perhaps I'd also like to add location so that I know where that device is located. And I can even add things like custom fields or status updates on the machine. This customization allows the user or the central management team to be able to see whatever information they want from a single dashboard instead of having to go spending time looking at each device's IP address or even running around the office looking for each device. Additionally, there is a map feature where if you can get a floor plan from the customer, you can upload that floor plan to KFS and drag and drop the machines onto the floor plan. This is a new feature, and it's very helpful for large organizations to keep track of where in the building their devices are located, and it makes it very easy for them if in the event of a move or an update to go and remap those locations. Moving over to the dashboard, this is a great tool for both sales reps, customers, and our IT teams to be able to get a quick overview of the device's usage. You'll see here it's going to give me a 12-month graph that shows me the black and white versus color volumes on all machines. Additionally, I can change that here to show me different things like the functions of the machine, whether it was a copy, a print, a fax, or a scan. And if the customer is using 3-tier color, I can even check that as well to see if there's any kind of color, tier color printing being done. You'll notice at the bottom, it additionally gives you the top 10 devices used in the last month and the inactive devices in the previous month. The inactive devices are devices that have run under 200 pages. For a technicals perspective, if we notice the machine in the top 10 matches a model from one in the bottom 10, this is a great opportunity to either swap those machines to kind of rotate the wear on them, or it might even bring to question whether or not this machine is a fit for that environment because maybe it's time to downsize it or consolidate it into another machine. At the top right, I can also change what volume I'm actually looking at. If I want right now just looking at print volume, I can also move it over to scan volume to get a more in-depth view of the scanning information. This information is very helpful because it allows us to see what the machine is actually doing. There are instances where a machine might have a very low print volume, but it turns out that it has a very high scan volume. This signals to us that that machine is still needed because the customers are using it for scanning purposes, and we should not replace it or downsize it to a single function printer. You can also see your top 10 scan volume devices in the last month. For technicians, we can also view things like the jams, which would show us the most common jams in the last month, all the way back to the last 6 months, which machines those jams are happening on, and which devices or which jam that actually is occurring. This allows the technicians to get a better idea of what the customer's fleet looks like and whether certain preventative maintenance should be taking place. We can also see the system errors. So very similar to the jams page, we can see the last 1 to 6 months of errors on the machines, the most common errors, and which machines are getting the most errors. This is a great service tool for our teams to be able to keep track of the customer's environment, service them better, and see what machines are maybe a problem device or need to be preventative maintenance to occur. Moving over to the notifications, KFS gives us a lot of great options to automate these notifications. The idea being that we don't have to always be looking at the dashboard to get information about our machines. To give you an example of some of the great notifications that we can create here, we can see things like a system error, a paper jam, low toner or empty toner, time for maintenance, and even when supplies like the waste toner box is getting full or we're getting close to a time for a maintenance kit to be installed. These are very helpful because if we receive that email before the maintenance kit, for example, needs to be replaced, we can proactively order that, have that part ready, and make one trip out to the customer instead of having to make multiple trips where we send a technician out, find out that, hey, a maintenance kit is needed. The technician then needs to order that maintenance kit and wait for it to be delivered. With this proactive service, we're able to get that part ordered before it's needed and actually install it in one trip. Again, reducing the customer's downtime and making our machines' uptime more available. A very common alert that we set up for our customers is the toner level alert. This allows you to set specific thresholds to receive an alert at. For example, we typically will set these to 25% for black and 20% for all the colors. This way, as soon as one of these thresholds is reached, we will receive an email with the ID number of the machine, the IP address if needed, and any sort of other identifying information to fulfill that order. Our supplies team uses this to keep track of our auto-shipped customers, and it's a very helpful tool for even the end users or the customer's IT to manage their machines. In a lot of large organizations, I find this notification to be the most commonly used, and they'll typically have it distributed to a generic email that multiple people have access to, so that at any time they can go and check what the toner levels on their machines are, if anything is coming close to empty, and then be ready to have that toner available. This way, the customer is never down without expecting that toner. Additionally, you can set things like a page count if you're trying to keep track of the volume of a machine. So I can say that when a copier has reached a certain copy total, print total, fax total, or scan total, I want to receive a notification for it. This can be very helpful for sales reps to keep track of how much devices are being used and when a device is maybe reaching a point that we need to start looking at an upgrade. The next area that we have is the graphical reports. And these are really great because they're pre-built templates that allow us to easily generate information for ourselves and for our clients. You can see here that when I go to add a new graphical report, all I have to do is select a template that I'd like to use for the report. For example, I can either do a black and white versus color print volume. I can do a counter report that will show me the end meter readings on each device, a report to check current toner levels, or even a days until empty report, which will tell me, based on the historical usage of that machine, how long that toner is going to remain. The great feature with these graphical reports is that all of these templates are pre-built. You only need to select the one that you'd like to use, and it'll generate a nice graph for you in whichever file format you select, whether it be a PDF, an Excel, a Word document, PowerPoint, or even a CSV. Our list reports feature gives us a lot more customization and maybe a greater visibility depending on how we'd like to run that report. You'll notice with these ones, there are very few pre-built templates, but we have a lot more options for customization. When I go into the templates here, I have my standard counter report, toner report, and group summary, but I can also create my own templates. To give you an example of a common template that I run for customers is a sort of like a usage report. So I'm going to call this volume report and hit next. And you'll see here, I can pick any available columns that I want to appear in this report. Most commonly, I'll include things like the model name, the serial number, the location, and the asset number as my identifying information. And I can even move these columns around to fit exactly where I want them to be. Once I've chosen all my identifying information, I will go ahead and check the counter information on the bottom here and hit next. This page will then show you all the different counters that we can track on this report. Most commonly, we want to see the combined total volume, meaning both black and white and color, the black and white volume, and the color volume. And we'd like to have those separated so that we can see each column. That would look like this. I'm now generating a report to show me the combined total volume, the black and white total volume, and the sum color volume. If I'd like to break this down to give me specific functionality, like for example, if I want to see how many faxes were run, I can select the boxes next to that column to see that on the report. In this case, I've now selected copy, print, and fax as a breakdown so that I can see individually how many total they've done, how many black and white copies, prints, and fax they've done, and how many color copy, prints, and fax they've done. We can even go as far as seeing things like paper size, whether a page was done single-sided or duplex, how many pages per sheet were run, what kind of scanning they're doing, usage if they've got usage things set up like professional accents or office accents. We can even see how often they're using things like staples. And then again, a total life count on the machine if you're looking at the entire lifespan of the device. Once you've selected all the fields you'd like to appear, you can go ahead and hit next. On this final page, you'll see all the columns that you've created, and you can even rename them if you'd like. Once you hit finish, you've now created this template that will be available for you to use at any time. The great thing about these templates is, again, you can use these on any report in the future. So you can set this template up one time and then use it for all of your clients on different reports. Once I've selected my template there, I would go ahead and name my report. Select the file format. I typically like to use CSV because it allows us to take that data and export it to an Excel worksheet or any kind of software that they might be using to track this data, and then hit next. Here you'll see you can select which customers you'd like to actually run this report on. I always recommend changing this quick select option to all accessible because that will select any subgroups beneath the parent group. For example, when I select this versatile building products, you'll see that it selects both of these subgroups underneath it because of that quick select option. However, there are cases where you may want to run a report only on a specific device. To do that, you click the devices option below, find the customer that you'd like to run the report on, and then select the devices that you'd actually like to see on that report from the right side here. This allows you to narrow down that scope to just the specific device that you're looking for, or if you're looking at a more broad stroke, select the entire group and run it for everything. Finally, with both graphical and list reports, you'll be asked to choose how often you'd like this report to run and the report range. On scheduled intervals, it will run automatically at whichever intervals you've selected. Daily, for example, will run every day at noon. Weekly will be whichever day I've selected and at the set time. And this goes for monthly. I can even choose which day of the month that will generate and what time. And if there's months that need to be skipped, we can uncheck those. Most commonly, I see people run a report at the beginning of the month, and typically for the report range, they'll set it to something like the last 90 days, which will show them their last quarter in data. Report ranges, though, are very helpful because they give you a lot of options for where you actually want to see that data. So for example, if you're looking at a specific date range, all you have to do is select the starting date. For example, maybe I want to see the summer of this year. I can go back to June 1st, and I can run it through August 31st. And I can even set when I want that to begin. So maybe I want that to start at 1 in the morning on June 1st, and I want it to end at 11:59 on August 31st. This will now give me a report in this date range and will include columns that show the usage in that time period. Finally, you can select who you actually want to receive these reports. By clicking the Me button, you easily add yourself to that report, but you can also type in any email addresses that you'd like to also receive it here at the bottom. They do not need a KFS account to receive that. For example, if I wanted to send this to my entire IT team, I'll add their email address down here and then hit Next. Once I hit the Finish button here, this report will be created and it will be scheduled to run automatically on the first of the month for whatever date range I've selected. That report is now scheduled. The final tab here at the way end is the task status. This is very helpful to audit what's being done in KFS and can be helpful for things like QBRs to show the customer what is being done on their devices and what kind of proactive service we're able to provide for them. Everything that's done in KFS is auditable by us or the customer. So this is a great way to show them that we are being proactive and we are working on their devices. And if they're curious about what kind of work we're doing, they can simply check the task status box or have this information available at a QBR.
For any questions, please call Monty Jensen at 415-286-1127. Thank you.